Chapter 1606, Mastering the Arms. The surrounding battle could not affect the two Epsilon-level mutants. As an existence in the northwest region whose talent was second only to Li Changgong's, Xiao Liu had been affected by that battle not long after leaving Xingjing, and had successfully broken through the boundaries to reach the Epsilon level. His existence was also one of the reasons why Li Changgong was emboldened in the face of the unknown civilization's attack. As soon as Xiao Liu and the Black and White Commander exchanged blows, he knew clearly in his heart that if he wanted to win this battle, he had to take care of the other party first. That was why he made a long leap from above the tall building and headed straight for the Black and White Commander. Boom! A pair of huge feathered wings grew out directly from his back. Metal Frenzy's ability was to strengthen everything, and in the beginning, he was acting as a mechanic, strengthening weapons for the troops. But later on, his combat power was slowly revealed. In addition to being able to strengthen weapons, Metal Frenzy could also strengthen himself, giving his body all sorts of incredible powers. This was an extremely strong ability, and even if one looked at it amongst the trait system mutants, it was a very enviable ability. I'll engage him head-on, and the North Pole War God is ready to support me remotely at any time. As Xiao Liu flew down, he gave battle orders to his comrades behind him. As the number 2 position of the Northwest Army, he was the supreme commander when Li Changgong wasn't around. After the order was given, Xiao Liu came directly in front of the Black and White Commander. The Black and White Commander's feet were off the ground, and underneath them was a massive wind that suspended him in midair. The moment Xiao Liu landed on the ground, he pulled out a high-explosive grenade from his body, and this ordinary grenade used against the mutants. After he pinched it with force, a horrifying black gas quickly emerged. The grenade turned into a horrifying monster egg with a hideous mouth on it, and even emitted a horrifying cry. Xiao Liu swung his arm round, and under the Metal Frenzy ability, his melee strength was not even inferior to that of a reinforced mutant of the same level. Xiao Liu separated and threw, and the mutant grenade was thrown directly at the Black and White Commander. The Black and White Commander's body assumed a fighting stance, and it was obvious that he was also very cautious in the face of an attack that was unclear as to where it was coming from. His right hand transformed into a palm sword and slashed down diagonally and viciously towards the front. A powerful and incomparable giant wind blade fell straight down from the sky in a form comparable to a tall building, striking straight ahead. The moment the giant wind blade touched the mutant grenade, an intense explosion erupted in the street between the two. Terrifying waves of air flattened the neighborhood. And while the explosion was still spreading, Xiao Liu had already pulled out various weapons he had prepared from his body. 2 large, special pistols for mutants were pulled out by him, and after being strengthened by the Metal Frenzy's supernatural energy, they turned into 2 terrifying firearms that were half a meter long, with black dragon stripes wrapped around their bodies. Bang! 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 Xiao Liu's shooting speed wasn't fast, but every bullet fired sent out a deafening explosion. And the bullets went directly towards the Black and White Commander through the flames caused by the explosions. The Black and White Commander walked forward unhurriedly, while his right hand joined his fingers like a sword and swiftly waved it in front of his body. A massive hurricane wind swept in front of him, bouncing all the attacks that came at him. Xiao Liu frowned when he saw this scene. The attack power possessed by a weapon that has been enchanted by my ability is definitely not comparable to an ordinary weapon. But he actually blocked it so easily, looks like there is still a gap in the level of the supernatural ability. He vibrated the wings behind his back and violently rose into the air, while at the same time, through the intelligence system, he gave a second command. Soon, from the weapon's base, a giant missile was launched, rose up into the air, and landed almost vertically towards the direction where the Black and White Commander was. Xiao Liu utilized the intelligence system's calculations to fly high into the air, then took advantage of the missile's speed at this point to hold it before it was too fast. The ability of Metal Frenzy was unleashed in an instant. The original black monster-like giant missile was quickly filled with a terrifying black smoke, and a piece of black dragon scales grew on its surface, and even its head transformed into a terrifying auger dragon head. A giant missile, surprisingly under Xiao Liyu's ability, transformed into a huge bloated black auger dragon, roaring angrily as it swooped down with its head towards the direction where the black and white commander was. The black and white commander discovered this attack from the sky, and his first reaction was to try to dodge it, but the missile had a self-locking function, and as soon as he dodged it, it immediately pursued him. Within this kind of range, dodging was basically meaningless. The black and white commander didn't have the space ability to move at a super high speed, so he simply turned around and condensed his hands into two storms, once again forming a thick and huge shield wall above his head. Roar the black auger swooped in an instant and crashed into the transparent shield wall formed by wind pressure. A simple impact detonated a terrifying and incomparable might. The explosive power of this missile was enough to destroy 5 streets, making it a strategic-level armament. At this time, after being strengthened by Xiao Liyu, the power was even increased by several levels. Therefore, the power of this explosion even made Xiao Liyu himself have to evacuate far in advance. Wave after wave of explosions impacted the black and white commander's wind shield, surprisingly breaking through his defense. Terrifying explosive energy swept out and impacted the black and white commander's main body. In an instant, his body was viciously thrown out. Xiao Liyu was just about to rejoice that this move had been successful. However, after taking a clear look at the black and white commander's flight trajectory, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. The opponent's figure was not disorganized in mid-air and appeared to be very calm. Is he unloading and utilizing the power of the wind? The black and white commander's ability was to control storms, something Xiao Liyu had long seen. Without hesitation, he gave an order to the armed forces. Second missile, launch. The black and white commander tumbled in midair before his body came to a stop on the glass wall of a commerce building. Ka-ching! Although he was intentionally controlling his power, the glass under his feet still shattered open. It could be seen that the attack that Xiao Liyu had utilized the giant missile to launch was not something that he had blocked with no effort at all. However, immediately afterward, Xiao Liyu's second attack was about to arrive. Among the black and white commander's eyes, he finally put away his contempt for the human, and he realized that if he maintained his previous attitude, thinking that the other party was a lamb to be slaughtered, something might really happen here. Looks like I have to take you guys seriously. Rumble. In the sky, a dull ringing sound was like a thunderous quake, but there was no lightning flashing in the middle of the black night sky. It was only dense overcast clouds that began to gather high in the sky. It was so dense that it almost enveloped the largest city in the northwest region. Storms, gathering high in the sky. Chapter 1607, Waiting for a Long Time. Huaxu Kingdom, multiple regions in emergency. Xinjing City. The new Supreme Commander, Meng Yuanjun, had summoned all the top brass overnight, and had even called back Shen Yuanzi, Zongyue, who was guarding Ghost Valley, to strengthen the defense of Xinjing City. As the number 1 city in Huaxu Kingdom, there was no room for error here. In the Earth God's Temple, Shang Daowen stood guard outside Guanlongyue's beaded curtain, his expression cold, his sharp gaze underneath his transparent rimless glasses. Meng Yuanjun was currently resting his chin on one hand, his brows slightly furrowed. Because right now, although Xinjing City had not yet been attacked, the requests for assistance from the various regions had already reached him. But right now, whether or not to go forward to assist was clearly a very difficult question. The enemy came from the abyss of Misty Valley, but no one knew for sure how vast the power of that mysterious civilization was. If they rashly sent someone forward to provide support, let alone the fact that they were understaffed. Even if they sent an Epsilon-level mutant carrying the Reaper of Love to aid them, it would still be too far away to quench their thirst. What's more, no one was sure if there was a more powerful enemy secretly spying on Xinjing City. After thinking for a long time, Meng Yuanjun sighed softly and finally decided not to send out a single soldier. Tell them that they can head to Xinjing City for emergency shelter. But we can't spare a hand to aid them nowadays. The executives of Xinjing did not have any opinions on this, their priority was still to protect themselves. Even if the other regions suffered losses, it would at most be a bruise for Huaxu Kingdom. However, if something went wrong in Xinjing, it would shake the foundation of the country. Jiangnan Region. After Zhu Xing received the warning from the other regions, he only hesitated for a second before immediately informing Zhang Yi of the news. Although he didn't like Zhang Yi influencing his authority in Jiangnan Region. But no matter what, he and Zhang Yi were both internal conflicts in Jiangnan Region. But when an external enemy invaded, their priority must be to protect their territory and people. Jiangnan Region needed Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi climbed up from his bed at the first time after receiving Zhu Zheng's information. I know. You guys just guard Blizzard City tightly. Zhu Zheng said anxiously, but we need your help now. If the enemy invades Jiangnan Region, the first time they will definitely attack Blizzard City. This has already been confirmed in other regions, and the ones that were attacked were all the capital cities of the regions without exception. They seem to have had an investigation, which is very bizarre. In the middle of Zhang Yi's mind, Ruan Ping, the undercover agent that he had killed earlier, appeared. It looked like not only in Tianhai City, but the entire Huaxu Kingdom's major regions had long been infiltrated by Misty Valley's undercover agents. This thought made Zhang Yi feel a little creeped out, but right now, it was not the time to consider such a problem. Don't worry, even if they were to come over, they would be blocked by me at sea. I definitely won't let them threaten Blizzard City. Zhang Yi said in a firm tone. Zhu Zheng's expression was a bit dumbfounded. He had thought that Zhang Yi would weigh the pros and cons for a long time before giving him an answer while putting forward many demands. However, he did not expect that Zhang Yi was actually planning to do so. That's right, if one wanted to attack the Jiangnan region from the sea, Tianhai City, which was located in the coastal region, was almost a must. Zhang Yi's selflessness caused Zhu Zheng's heart to waver a little. Zhang Yi, I'm counting on you for everything in the Jiangnan region. Zhu Zheng said in a deep voice. Zhang Yi nodded, well, just pack it on me. Zhu Zheng hung up his communicator. He stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out the window at the quiet and peaceful night, and after a long period of silence, he sighed indistinctly. Zhang Yi's heart is still good, it's just that he has some conflict of interest with me. Ending the communication, Zhang Yi gritted his teeth. These guys, they are just aiming at me. First, it was the Columbia Naval Fleet, then the East Sea region, and then their Jiangnan region. One didn't need to think about it to know that the people from Star Island's Misty Valley had started the war in retaliation for their previous actions of exploring the abyss and snatching the source of God. Therefore, if people came to attack Jiangnan region, the first person they would look for would be him. Zhang Yi had already put on his battle suit and submarine dragon armor as he spoke, and said to the intelligence system, "Wake up everyone in the entire Tianhai City for a level 1 alert state." His eyes were filled with killing intent. I haven't slept peacefully a few times in these 2 years. Guys from Misty Valley, you've finally come this time. It's not in vain that I made so many preparations for you guys. The other regions didn't take the previous Ruan Ping incident seriously, they all thought that it was just Zhang Yi's personal grudge. However, Zhang Yi, as a direct stakeholder, would definitely not be as careless as they were. Ever since the day Sky Dragon King gave him a warning before his death, he had been preparing for today's battle all the time. And this day had finally arrived. It was time to untie the knot in his heart for 2 years. The entire Tianhai City, at the same time, everyone was awakened. It had been practiced countless times, so at this time, after entering level 1 alert, everyone acted almost instinctively. The 3 major bases of Tianhai City went into a full blockade at the same time, these ordinary people and low-level mutants wouldn't be of much use in the event of a war. They were the laborers and seeds of Tianhai City and needed to be preserved. The 3 major bases were closed and everyone went underground. That was the underground shelter that Tianhai City had once prepared to prevent H attacks. As long as they hid inside and weren't discovered, their lives would be basically worry-free. As for the front battlefield, the combat troops had also quickly assembled. Above the Black Ocean, a silver armor warrior led his men's combat troops to rapidly fly towards Tianhai City. Their bodies were equipped with advanced armaments that could evade the radar technology of current human technology. Taking advantage of the night, they could silently sneak into the city and then launch a merciless killing spree. Silver Armor Warrior flew forward, the helmets displaying a 3-dimensional topographical map of Tianhai City. The target this time is in this city. He killed the scout Sang Bi. According to the intelligence, it possesses a very special ability. The mission given by the higher-ups is to capture him back alive. Silver Armor Warrior confirmed the mission objective of this trip and accelerated the speed of his flight. Only when he passed over the sea, he suddenly looked downwards. In the middle of the dark ocean, there was a somewhat old fishing boat floating. Silver Armor Warrior didn't care about this small fishing boat with no signs of life, but continued to fly forward. He, however, did not notice that one of the cameras on top of the fishing boat was lit up with a subtle red light and had captured their silhouettes. The simplest things were often the most difficult to defend against. With Tianhai City as the center and a range of 300 miles of sea, there only needed to be a few hundred of these small boats or anchor points located on islands and reefs, which would be enough to form a surveillance blockade of the entire sea. Chapter 1608 City Defense Sniper. After that battle between Zhang Yi and Sky Dragon King, he realized the limitations of modern technology for mutants. They did not travel in airplanes or ships, radar had no effect on them, and satellites could not possibly lock onto the tiny figures of individuals from above the vast ocean. Therefore, ancient contraptions like cameras were the best to use. Using the analyzing ability of the intelligent system, whenever a suspicious target appeared, it would send an alert to Zhang Yi at the first time. Especially today, Zhang Yi had been notified by Zhu Zheng. The other party had traveled to the East Sea region first, which left Zhang Yi with some time to prepare. He woke up everyone inside his home and arranged for them to execute their work according to the predetermined plan. Afterwards, he was alone and ascended to the highest level of the shelter. At this moment, the shelter had completely turned into a different appearance. With the shelter as the center, Liu Karen had once again created a spherical fortress. The new type of defense barrier created by combining metal with baffle stone could effectively block mutant attacks. Even a level Epsilon mutant would have to expend a great deal of effort to break through this layer of defense. Within the barriers, there were also multiple defense facilities, and any intruder would have to taste the evil intentions of the builders. Zhang Yi came directly to the top of the fortress, which was more than 50 meters high, and the wind was a bit noisy at night. The position Zhang Yi was on was a platform, and he utilized his communication device to communicate with Liu Karen. The enemy has appeared within 300 miles of the sea around Tianhai City. Prepare to attack. Roger, brother. Activate City Defense Sniper. Liu Karen started operating inside the controls below. Not long after, the platform in front of Zhang Yi opened a square mouth, and from below, a huge mechanical monster slowly rose up. It was an odd cannon that extended out from below, more than 10 meters long, but the body of the cannon was not as thick as a normal cannon, with a caliber of only about 130 millimeters. And it was only when the entire body of the cannon extended all the way out from below that it was shockingly realized that it was actually in the shape of a sniper rifle. A super city defense sniper that was 15 meters long and nearly 10 times larger than Zhang Yi. Its lower half was completely connected to the fortress itself, and the trigger was comparable to Zhang Yi's palm, if not a bit larger. There was no bullet magazine, and a huge yuan stone energy bin was attached to the bottom. Zhang Yi had once pondered over a question. His ability Precision Shot was a space ability that allowed him to directly lock onto the enemy without the need for aiming or deviation in the angle of fire. But usually, he used pistols and sniper rifles, and even with the enhancement of his ability, his maximum range was only 5 kilometers. So, what if he used even more powerful weapons? For this reason, he constantly asked Liu Karen to improve his weapons. Using more powerful bullets and making the thunder strike even more massive could make it have a longer range and be more powerful. However, a single combat weapon, after all, was limited by weight and size. So, if it was a city defense weapon that was fixed up, through the latest type of Yuan stone charging as a means of attack, utilizing satellite locking for ultra-long range positioning, and then using it in conjunction with Zhang Yi's ability, what would be the effect? Zhang Yi sat in the driver's seat of the city defense sniper, his eyes looking into the distance through the scope while his right hand was placed on top of the trigger. At this moment, the Misty Valley troops were already only 200 miles away from the coastline of Tianhai City, and the sentries along the way that had been set up in advance by Zhang Yi had already discovered their position. After this simple version of the Skynet system roughly confirmed the other party's location, it then utilized the Jiangnan region's nebula satellite system for precise positioning. It finally allowed Zhang Yi to completely lock onto the other party's position through the city defense sniper. A distance of 200 miles, taking out the other party's warrior with a single shot? It's the first time I've tried it. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and then unleashed his ability as the other party in the middle of his vision gradually zoomed in. It was a high-speed marching unit, led by a humanoid-type creature wearing silver armor warrior, and behind him, there were 2 black and white armor warrior deputies. The 3 were at the head, and behind them were hundreds of green armor warriors. According to the information Zhang Yi had received from Blizzard City, these warriors of the Misty Valley mysterious civilization had a strict level. Silver Armor, the general who led the group, generally had a strength above the level of Black Chariot. The Black and White commander possessed a rather prominent strength in the White Chariot level. As for those green armor warriors, they possessed the captain level strength of over 9,000 points, even close to Epsilon level points. Such a terrifying team, if they were not attacking Huashu Kingdom, then they could easily bulldoze through almost all medium-sized kingdoms in this world. If Zhang Yi hadn't taken precautions in advance, coupled with the fact that the other regions had been attacked earlier and had obtained some of the information. If Tianhai City were to encounter an attack rashly, it would be a disaster of extinction. But today, you are facing the most stable man in the world. Things are different now. As Zhang Yi opened his mouth, a strange light flickered in his eyes. The time power of his left eye was unleashed. Everything follows the trail, locking onto his opponent's trajectory within 2 seconds, while the space power of his right eye drew on the dark, terrifying and incomparable darkness power from the void. Behind him, a huge black vortex quickly emerged, from which black viscous power flowed out, dipping into the city defense sniper's energy warehouse along his arm. Charge complete. The launch was ready. Zhang Yi did not hesitate and decisively pulled the trigger. However, the target of the first shot was not the silver armor warrior at the front of the group, but a black and white commander at his side. Even with the use of such a city defense level mass murderer, it would be difficult to kill a Black Chariot level mutant in a single strike. But right now, the most unequal match between Tianhai City and the other party wasn't the top combatants, but the middle and lower tiers. Zhang Yi could fight Silver Armor Warrior, but the other side still had 2 Epsilons, as well as hundreds of captain-level mutants. Those guys, the others in Tianhai City, would have a very hard time dealing with them. And those were the biggest hidden dangers that Zhang Yi needed to think about. The city defense sniper let out a deafening roar, shooting a black line through space along the top of the hundreds of meters high spherical fortress of the asylum towards the ocean 200 miles away. That line was extremely thin at the very beginning, like a steel wire. It was a sign of extremely condensed power, indicating that the energy was not dispersed in order to achieve the strongest killing power. After an instant, it crossed over the earth of Tianhai City and the ocean in front of it, arriving in front of the Misty Valley troops. Silver Armor Warrior was speeding swiftly, when suddenly his figure jerked in the air. An incomparably powerful force was rapidly approaching, and his body subconsciously slowed down its movements. In the middle of his pupil, a black dot suddenly appeared, his right arm violently stretched out, a stream of white lightning coalesced in his palm, and he was about to step out to block this attack. However, what he didn't expect was that this attack actually brushed past him, straight, and shot towards a black and white commander who was a few hundred meters away from him. Chapter 1609, A Snipe. When that black and white commander realized the danger coming, he was already unable to react as quickly as Silver Armor Warrior. Who could have imagined that an attack launched at midnight in the dense night color, and in such a way of moving in a small unit, would be subjected to an attack from the other side at a distance of 200 miles apart? However, that black light was like the sight of the god of death, and the instant it appeared in front of his eyes made him feel the crisis of death. The black and white commander subconsciously raised his arms to block in front of him, and a twisting force of space quickly surfaced. However, the next moment, poof! He didn't even have time to use his abilities. All the defenses on his body were like papier-mâché, and along with his body, he was directly penetrated by a shot from the city defense sniper. After the black line pierced through his torso, it quickly spread out, directly opening a large hole in his chest with a diameter of 50 to 60 centimeters. It completely destroyed his internal organs, and even the 5 green armor warriors behind him were also killed by the aftermath of the shot. A black and white commander with a supernatural ability index of 15,000 points was directly sniped to death by Zhang Yi with a single shot. Everything happened too suddenly, so much so that the Silver Armor Warriors and other Misty Valley mutants, who were still full of confidence when they arrived, were completely dumbfounded at this moment. After Zhang Yi scored a hit, he quickly recharged the city defense sniper for the second time. With this kind of super-large city defense armament, the speed of recharging would be a bit slow, and the firing interval between the 2 times would take 5 seconds. Moreover, this was already the speed of the limit, and if it was fired continuously, even the barrel built using E-metal would be deformed as it could not withstand the strong force. However, this was the last thing Zhang Yi cared about. Weapons could still be rebuilt if they were damaged, and as long as they could kill the enemy most effectively, everything could be given up except for his own life and that of his partner. The black and white commander's body fell straight down from a high altitude towards the sea, and immediately, 2 green-armored warriors flew over to catch his body. At this time, they saw the huge hole in the black and white commander's chest and knew that there was no way back. Silver Armor Warrior's pupil shrunk violently. He hadn't even arrived at the enemy's territory yet, but he had already been attacked in advance, and he had also lost one of his powerful lieutenants, which made him furious. He knew that traveling further away to attack would inevitably give the humans time to react and be prepared. And the goal of this operation was very important. It was because of this that he had brought 2 white chariot-level deputies with him on this trip. But who would have thought that one of the deputies would die in battle before he even got close to that seaside city? Is this the guy who killed Scout Zhang Yi? Silver Armor Warrior's mind raced and quickly came up with a strategy to deal with it. Everyone, spread out and kill that human city as fast as you can. Xian Fu, you follow me. Xian Fu was the only deputy he had left. Since the other party possessed powerful attack weapons with ultra-long range, and the goal that Yo-Yo chose was to clean up his men. Then, a large number of ordinary soldiers would be utilized as bait to attract the opponent's firepower. And with Xian Fu following him, he still had the ability to protect this important fighting force. Once we wait for us to land, Silver Armor Warrior's eyes filled with a raging murderous intent, kill all the creatures in this city. A mere human dared to kill his cherished subordinates, and his anger must be vented through the slaughter of the city. Hundreds of green-armored warriors dispersed in the air in an instant, then marched towards the coast of Tianhai City. On the other hand, Black and White Commander Xian Fu retreated a few meters in the air and followed closely behind Silver Armor Warrior. They moved forward at an even faster speed, rather like they were trying to destroy everything. However, Zhang Yi did not care in the slightest. At times like this, it was a war between you and me in itself. Either the other party would die out, or Tianhai City, or even the entire Jiangnan region would be completely destroyed. A single strike had killed a white chariot-level Black and White commander, and this result was within his expectations. If he couldn't even do that, his current strength would be a complete joke. However, he also knew that it was no longer practical to kill another Black and White commander. So in the next moment, he aimed his gun at Silver Armor Warrior. Before you get close to Tianhai City, first consume your living forces to the greatest extent possible. Since ancient siege warfare, the defending side would always have the advantage of geographical location, and in the time before Silver Armor Warrior arrived at Tianhai City, he could only be forced to defend against Zhang Yi's attacks. Once 10 seconds had passed, the second bullet of the city defense sniper was recharged. Everything follows the trail, locked onto Silver Armor Warrior's trajectory and fired directly. The shadowy black light once again pierced through space and shot towards the Silver Armor Warrior's chest. Its speed was unimaginable, spanning a long distance in an instant and arriving in front of the Silver Armor Warrior. The first time Silver Armor Warrior saw it, he thought of dodging, but he was flying at a high speed, and suddenly he turned around with the feeling that he had been prejudged. Silver Armor Warrior simply stopped dodging, otherwise, the Black and White commander behind him would most likely be hit. He stretched out his right arm, his right fist clenched in the air, a powerful ball of lightning condensed in the center of his palm, the blazing white light of electricity as if it was about to boil, with an unstable and terrifying aura. Silver Armor Warrior, facing that rapidly approaching black light, did not have time to hesitate, and surprisingly chose to clench his fist, and then fiercely blasted out with a punch towards the black light. Rumble! The sky above the ocean was like a thunderous earthquake, as a terrifying current exploded in his fist, and the ocean below roared as the waves rushed up to the sky because it couldn't withstand this powerful energy. The black light fiercely impacted on top of this powerful current. Two very different forces collided with each other, and the expression on Silver Armor Warrior's face became extremely grave. He felt as if his punch had smashed on top of a huge mountain made of metal. Even he was subjected to a very strong oppressive force, causing the bones of his right fist to screech. Boom! The two forces erupted out, and Silver Armor Warrior, as the one who directly endured the force, was actually directly blasted backwards. Wow! His body landed on the surface of the sea, gliding out thousands of meters away along the surface, splashing up waves hundreds of meters high. Only finally did he manage to stop, and then his body flew back up high into the air. He took a deep breath and subconsciously glanced at his right fist. The exquisite white-silver armor that encased his right fist had unexpectedly shattered at this moment, revealing his bloody fist. There is indeed some strength. It seems that the intelligence was wrong, and the other party is an ability user who can unleash ultra-long-range attacks. However, according to what happened before, it's not like he's unlimited in unleashing this ability. There will be an interval between attacks. Then, as long as I block the next attack and get close to his main body, I can get into my rhythm. Silver Armor Warrior clenched his fists, his gaze coldly looking towards the distant coastline. Chapter 1610, Invoking the Thunder Call. Silver Armor Warrior directly carried the strike that Zhang Yi had unleashed using the city defense sniper head-on, and although he was knocked back and received some injuries, he was not seriously injured. He brought the Black and White commander with him as he continued to fly towards Tianhai City at breakneck speeds. Silver Armor Warrior expected that since the other party was a mutant who was good at attacking over long distances, his melee combat ability would definitely not be too strong. As long as he waited until he landed in Tianhai City, he would completely enter his domain. In a sense, there was nothing wrong with his judgment. Zhang Yi was not a mutant who excelled in melee combat. However, he did not know that long-range attacks were only Zhang Yi's interest, and defensive counterattacks were his specialty. In this Tianhai City fortress, he had spent several years building it just for this battle today. Through the satellite, Zhang Yi could clearly see the green armored warriors attacking towards Tianhai City from all directions. He only pondered for 0.1 second before giving up his intention of using city defense sniper to kill them to death. An existence of this level was simply not worth wasting one of his precious bullets. Flower, Liang Yu. You guys go. Zhang Yi gave the combat order. The rest of the area is directly abandoned, just guard the perimeter of the fortress and clean up the stragglers. As for the toughest guy on the other side, leave it to me. At this moment, quite a number of people were in the middle of the fortress, including Bai Li Changqing and Wu Di, as well as the entire Volt Shadow troop of 29 people. However, Zhang Yi did not intend to involve them in this battle. For no other reason, the strength of these people was still too weak today. Not to mention letting them participate in the battle, even letting them fight one-on-one would be difficult. As for Uncle Yu, with the support of Liu Karen's mecha, he had the strength to fight with these green-armored warriors. However, there were too many opponents, so going into battle would still be a high risk. There was no need to put him on the field, and Fatty Su had the same reasoning. High-end games, they couldn't fight right now. Liang Yu had already changed into a full set of combat clothes long ago, a black armor wrapping her body. Her body looked very well proportioned, just like an athletic leopard, although compared to a male's body it might seem a bit thin and weak, but there was no need to doubt the explosive power contained in her body. Liang Yu's left hand carried the modified Tang Sword Dragon's Roar, after Liu Karen's transformation, and on her shoulder lay a black civet cat with its eyes closed in a false sleep. However, Flower's eyes were narrowed out to a slit, clearly transmitting the killing aura of a wild beast. One person and one cat came to the outer edge of the fortress, not rushing to strike, but getting ready and waiting for Zhang Yi to give further orders to fight. Zhang Yi did not continue to do anything, but waited for the third recharge of the city defense sniper to finish. With the silver armor warrior's flying speed, after this strike, he probably wouldn't have the chance to fire the city defense sniper again. However, none of this mattered, the city defense sniper had already achieved an extremely high strategic value. The silver armor warrior flew closer, and was already less than 50 miles away from the coastline. Zhang Yi pulled the trigger of the city defense sniper for the third time, and a terrifying black light shot through Tianhai City towards the silver armor warrior. It was still so fast that it was difficult to dodge, and Silver Armor Warrior's choice did not change, still using the powerful thunder to break down the power of the black light in a hard way. The sea roared, the waves rose up to the sky of thunder lit up the coast of Tianhai City, but the only thing that caught his eye was a dead silence. Silver Armor Warrior was once again sent flying thousands of meters away, and his left fist was also blown to a bloody pulp, but this injury, he did not care. Because after this blow, he was going to land in Tianhai City. The Green Armor Warriors, on the other hand, were one step ahead and arrived at the battlefield first. They didn't need to worry about Zhang Yi's attack, so their speed was even faster. The first time after arriving in Tianhai City, they started frantically searching for any signs of creatures. Being shot first by Zhang Yi and killing a black and white commander made them all incomparably furious inside, and they were very eager to wash away this shame with blood. However, when they landed on the ground, they were shocked to find that the city was so dead. Originally thought that they would encounter a large number of human warriors resisting like the other troops, and they were prepared to kill. However, they didn't expect that an attack that was waiting to happen was like a punch on cotton. Tianhai City was already sparsely populated, and now that it had absorbed some population from outside, it had only reached 80,000 people. Coupled with Zhang Yi's early precautions, at this time, they were all hiding in shelters 100 to 200 meters deep underground. How could these invaders have thought of this? But soon, they still made a discovery. Because in this desolate, ice-covered land, there was a location that stood out so prominently. That was the hemispherical fortress that towered over the western mountainous region, on the banks of the Heron River. Is that the human stronghold there? Attack it and kill every living person inside. The green armor warriors instantly reached a consensus after communicating through each other, and rushed towards the shelter's fortress. At this moment, Silver Armor Warrior also flew to Tianhai City, his feet stepping on the hard ground, his hands dripping with blood. But the corner of his mouth, however, hooked up into a bizarre arc. He raised his head to look into the distance, which was where the human ability user who had attacked him was located. Within this distance, the other party no longer had a chance to launch another attack on him. Kill all the humans here. After Silver Armor Warrior said these words, his legs snapped together, then he rose into the air and flew high in the direction where the fortress was. He flew high into the air, soaring thousands of meters straight up and up towards the sky. Rumble. Thick clouds began to gather in the middle of the sky, and he pointed at the sky with one hand, with white electric light flickering at his fingertips. Zhang Yi put down the city defense sniper and said to Liu Karen, "Put it away." Liu Karen was inside the control room and put the city defense sniper inside the fortress. Zhang Yi squinted his eyes and looked up at the Silver Armor Warrior guy in the sky as he slowly raised his right hand. Everything under heaven, 3,000 realms. Responding to all changes with no change was his fighting style. No matter what method you use to attack me, you must first cross the space barrier that separates my two worlds. 3,000 enormous dimensional gates directly covered the area above. Silver Armor Warrior stood at a height of tens of thousands of meters, surrounded by rain clouds as thick and heavy as mountains. His fingertips flickered with silver-colored arcs of electricity, and as if summoned by him, the electric currents in the clouds were also like silver snakes roaming around. Silver Armor Warrior hovered in the middle of the sky, his hands raised high. Thunder call. Ka-ching. Thunder exploded, and in all directions, countless currents were like a thick silver snake, rapidly running towards Silver Armor Warrior. That was the purest heavenly might, possessing an extremely terrifying and powerful energy, an existence that all living things were born to fear.